what a poo butt game. I mean, vibes are good.
Yeah. Well, hi guys. For those of you who are just joining on the YouTube, Sunday Night Live reaction show, episode, what, 3, 4? This is our fourth one?
I think.
Yeah, fourth one. And we have a lot to talk about, don't we?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay.
Where do we start?
Well, let's start with the reason that we do these shows, which is to answer people's questions. I'll start. Does anybody on Instagram have a real question yet? Let's okay, like Matt says, concerned, yes. Frustrated, yes. Season over, no. That's probably the rational take. Yeah, yeah, you're right. The problem is, again, like I think there's too much PTSD right now over what happened last year. Slow start, couldn't recover enough to the point where they got into the playoffs. They missed the playoffs by 2 games. And I think people are seeing deja vu all over again right now. Is that going to be the end result? We're going to have to play the rest of the 5.5 months, but it's easy to feel that way right now. I think a lot of people are feeling that way right now.
Where are we at with Mitch Garver? Probably not anywhere serious, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's disappointing. It's certainly disappointing. I'm a little disappointed he's off to a slow start because they need him. Mm-hmm. Like the hitting core is contingent on him hitting. The whole point of an improved lineup is your additions that are supposed to be significantly better than the players they're replacing are supposed to hit. And Mitch Garver, as of right now, through 16 games, is no better than the DHs he replaced. Unfortunately, that's how it is. And it's hard to get better that way. Where we actually have seen the improvement is Polo over the last week has been really good. Way better than Mariners' second baseman that they've had in the last 6-7 years. So
yeah, for sure.
That's I would say that's an example right there.
I would also say with Garver. Yeah, I mean, I would also say with Garver that pick your poison about somebody in the lineup, right? Because it's the whole lineup that's not hitting. I know Garver's a focal point. He was the big free agent signing, which I'd say big. It was 2 years, $24 million. But for the Mariners standards, that was the big free agent signing. He's not hitting. Other guys aren't hitting. Like, obviously, we know Julio's not. We know that Cal's not really hitting a ton yet. It's most of the lineup right now. So, yes, it's frustrating that Garver's not hitting, but the team's not. The reason the team isn't winning games is not solely because Mitch Garver's not hitting. They need the lineup as a whole to actually fire on all cylinders. It's not just Garver.
And seeing a little bit of Sebi talk here. Again, I just don't know if the backup catcher is an important enough position. Like a multiple things, DFA Sebi, send down Sebi and bring up Blake Hunt. First of all, I'm not sold any of the AAA catchers are better than what Sebi Zavala brings right now. Second of all, I think the Mariners need to solve first their players who play 5 to 6 days a week and get them on track before we worry about the guy who plays 1 day a week. I think it's a little bit of a bigger issue, or the guys who are tasked with going out there and starting baseball games. Those are more important issues right now, I think, for the Mariners to actually spend their time and focus on. In reality, guys, let me throw this question out to both chats on both YouTube, on Instagram. If you're watching on Instagram, we're also live on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, we're also live on Instagram. So you can find us wherever, 7 o'clock every Sunday night. How much is Sebi Zavala really costing this team? Really? Honest question. How much is he costing them?
Yeah, he had 2 at-bats this weekend, and then they put in Cal Raley. So
right.
Not a lot. Now, because we have narratives to push on this podcast, I will say, if they need a backup catcher, this podcast demands a Matt Scheffler call-up.
Right.
The only logical option, I got to say. We're going to push that narrative on this podcast. However, while Sebi Zavala is here, TJ's right that there's a lot of other things that need to be fixed well before you can worry about a backup catcher who's getting a couple of bats.
Man, got a lot here on Instagram, Lyle.
Yeah, they're flowing. The comments on Instagram are flowing. We're not gonna miss. We're not gonna be short of questions on Instagram.
It's a culture of underperforming. Let's see what else. Should have had Cal catch the first 15 games to get our rotation back on track. I just don't I can't have Cal catching 15 games in a row. That sounds like a terrible idea. I want him back there. I appreciate the idea, but I want him healthy and good to go in September.
And no starting catchers catching 15 games in a row. No catchers catching 15 games in a row. That just doesn't happen. So, look, I know Cal's one of the best catchers in the league when he's at his best, but that's not responsible player management if he catches 15 in a row. So, yeah.
Okay. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I see
Go
some
ahead.
people talking about it. We're going to talk about this on Wednesday's episode. I think we should talk about Julio.
How much do we want to save for the Wednesday pod versus now?
Well, I'd say there's a couple of like instant reactions to this. Like, I think you and I can go a little bit more. I was thinking Wednesday's pod can be why he's struggling. What do the numbers say about why he's struggling?
Mm-hmm.
But sort of just philosophically, the idea about today and the end result in hindsight stunk. I thought it was like the worst possible thing that could have happened for giving guy a mental day off. Worst thing, period. The whole point of what Scott Service said today, we want to give Julio the day off so he can quote unquote unplug, not worry about baseball, not worrying about have to perform. So not only does him getting picked off at the end of the game essentially undo all of that. Do you think he's not thinking about baseball? No. Oh, he's absolutely thinking about baseball now. He just made a crucial mistake at the end of the game, which stinks. And it ruined the whole thing. So now, whatever progress the Mariners made by giving him a day off, by the way, only 2+ weeks into the season. Shocking that Julio needed a day off to reset 2 weeks into the season. Just crazy stuff. But it's just so disappointing how it's that all that, like what today was trying to achieve, missing out on 4 potential Julio at-bats, missing out on his defense in center field to give him that mental day, and then essentially undoing it all at the end. It was kind of like, it was certainly kind of disappointing.
Yeah, I don't think it was the craziest thing in the world to simply ask the guy to pinch run. Dom Canzone gets hurt in the first inning today, and that's another topic in itself, which is not good. It's not like they asked Julio to go out and play in the first inning. They still gave him his day off. They let Dylan Moore play left field instead. If the Mariners had been down 5-0 in the 9th inning, he wouldn't have played. But the 1-run game, with Cal on at first base, a ball in the gap, Julio scores on that. Cal doesn't. So I know everybody's now talking about, well, why did he run? Why was he out pinch running? What are we doing? But guess what? If Luke Raley hits a ball in the right center field gap in that situation, and Cal Raleigh's on base, he gets stopped at third, and then the next batter gets out and the game ends, there would be a lot of you asking right now, why didn't they pinch run Julio? Why didn't they have somebody faster come in and run? He was the best option on the bench, obviously. They weren't asking him to hit. They weren't asking him to play the field. They didn't ask him to do that much. It was just run the bases. I didn't think it was that crazy to ask him to run in that scenario.
It's not that crazy. And if he would have just stayed on the base, not gotten out, literally today would not have been an issue. But because that happened, like the worst possible case scenario of everything they were trying to achieve that day, right? The baseball thinking is correct. You are right. But the end result, stinks. It stinks.
I'm going to ask this question for everybody listening. I think I'm going to do it against my better judgment. However, I'm sure people probably have some thoughts on it. But do you guys, both in the comments and you, TJ, make anything of him not talking afterwards today? Because he did decline to speak. He preferred not to. So he kind of just went about his business and moved on after the game rather than talking.
His choice. I would prefer the best player on the team, if you were to make a mistake like that, to answer questions after the game.
Yeah. So my only counter is, how much is there to say? Because he didn't play here on Sunday, right? He didn't hit, like we just said. He didn't play the field. He was out there for 90 seconds, minutes. Yeah, he got picked off. Obviously, I don't think there's that much that is going to get said other than I made a mistake. Shouldn't happen. I was leaning toward second base, trying to get either a good lead or a good jump. They got me. But I don't know. How much does answering that question do for everybody? I guess
it certainly makes you perceived a lot better.
It does.
Just being able to own up to something.
Yeah.
As opposed to declining and not saying anything, right? You can use the example for any sort of figure that you can't, like John Fisher for the A's, for example, never takes questions, never takes ownership of all of his mess ups, right? Different, different platform, chairman versus star player, but would people have more respect for people who actually stand up there, answer questions, right? And again, ultimately it's Julio's choice whether to speak or not. Didn't feel like speaking today. That's fine. It's his choice. But he's got the big contract. It's his name everywhere. He's the leader. He is the guy on the team. He's the guy who rows the boat of this franchise. They have tied their net worth to him. So when stuff like this happens, so you want to hear the voice of Julio being like, "Yeah, I messed up." Right? It's been tough. It's been really difficult for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that all makes sense. I think it could have gone either way. Like, I understand why people probably wanted to hear him talk. I understand the people that say why it probably wasn't necessary. Hopefully tomorrow, maybe a little harder now because he ended up getting picked off to end the game. But hopefully tomorrow, the 8.5 innings of mental rest day does him good, and he can turn this thing around because they need him. I know we talked about Garver earlier. One guy can't change the entirety of the lineup, but if there was one guy who could single-handedly change the outcome of a bad losing streak, a couple bad trends, Julio. We know this team goes as Julio goes. And this is the third year in a row he struggled in the month of April. Now, April's only half over. He could turn this around pretty quick, but it's got to happen soon, or he's just going to continue to dig himself into a hole like he did last year, and there's going to be a lot of catch-up to play to get himself out of it.
And if he keeps digging himself into a hole, that also means the Mariners are in a hole. It's very hard to see the two going in opposite directions. Like, it's hard to see the Mariners taking off without Julio taking off. Almost impossible.
There was correlation last year, right? First half of the year, Mariners weren't doing great. Julio wasn't doing great. Julio has the month of his life in August. August was the Mariners' best month. Julio struggled down the stretch the last week and a half or so of the season. Mariners didn't make the playoffs. So it's more than one guy, but there's correlation. When Julio goes, this team goes. I think everybody knows that. So obviously, you want to start to see Garver hit. You want to start to see Cal hit. You want to start to see JP hit. But I think a lot changes if Julio gets going here. Hopefully, again, despite getting picked off today, the rest day does him some good. Also, side note, I will give Julio this, in spite of everything we've just talked about. I don't know how in the world the umpires thought they had the camera angle on that to definitively overturn that call. I don't know what they saw. Maybe it was just what I was looking at. I didn't see any angle where it was definitive. It's like, you're out.
So. I thought he looked out.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw a lot of discourse on Twitter about that too. It's like, how is there any angle to prove whether he's like to actually definitively overturn this call?
It looked like the tag was clearly on him with his hand hovering above the base, not on it.
Well, maybe they got it right. I guess from whatever I was looking at, it was hard to get an angle on it, but maybe it was out.
Not a group of guys we trust more to make the right call.
And umpires, yeah, they're the best.
Yeah, shout out to, first of all, if we're talking about bad performances this weekend, I don't think we can get through without shouting out Angel Hernandez. Historic performance. Historic. Shout out to you, Angel.
Didn't they say that was like the most off the plate of balls ever been called a strike before?
Yeah, in the umpire auditor history, and I think he did it on 3 consecutive pitches.
I don't know how the umpires union doesn't step in and do something about it. I know it's the umpires union that would have to take action. I don't know how they don't. You know how bad that guy makes the rest of the entirety of the group look? Do something.
It's probably some very good union negotiating that you can't just fire guys, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, they should make an exception here. Anyway.
they probably need to.
Yeah.
There's a question here on YouTube that we can talk out. This, I would say, not exactly how rotation building works, but I know Castillo had a good outing outside of the first inning today, but if Castillo and Kirby are worse than Gilbert and Miller, would they ever switch the rotation around? The problem is, once you start playing, there's you got to just pitch every 5 days. There's no sense in changing the rotation. Everyone's going to have to pitch no matter what. It's just what day of the week it is. Now, say Castillo and Kirby are scuffling by the All-Star break and they're coming out, and I don't know who the Mariners are playing the first series out of the All-Star break. But say they would want to throw their 2 best guys first in Gilbert and Miller. If it's still that way at the All-Star break, then sure, they would do that. But right now, they're not. No, they're just going to pitch every 5 days. That's what's going to happen.
The order of the rotation doesn't really matter after you get through the first 5 games of the season, because then it's just a constant turnstile of, like you said, everybody pitches every 5 days. That's the only time you'd really jumble things around is either after the All-Star break or if there's an injury and there's an off day built in where you can still get a guy 4 days rest and you can jumble some things around that way. Sometimes that happens, but I don't think there's any reason they're gonna go through with that. If the Mariners get into the playoffs and it's still Logan Gilbert and Bryce Miller that are the 2 best in the rotation, maybe at that point they start to shift some things that way to make sure those guys pitch game 1 and 2. But Luis Castillo and George Kirby still have 28 to 29 starts to make in this season. So, there's a very good chance by the end of the year they're still the 1 and 2. So let's pump the brakes on that.
No, here's a good question, actually. How would you think about this? When Wu comes back, we know they're going to limit Wu's innings. Would you be open to the idea of the Mariners running a 6-man rotation when Brian Wu comes back?
Yeah, sure. It depends on how they view Emerson Hancock as a competitive big league starter by that point. He was much better in his last outing yesterday, where look, he did give up some hard hit balls, but when it was all said and done, he went 6 innings with 2 earned runs. If he proves in the next couple of starts that he's still being competitive when Wu comes back, it's not the worst idea. I mean, if I don't know if I would assume Luis Castillo and George Kirby struggling early is not by any means having anything to do with fatigue, especially in mid-April. But if they think they're going to get better production out of their guys by running a 6-man rotation and giving guys more rest, think about it.
Something you do think about. You'd be your man short in the bullpen, but ultimately that's what you decide. If you think your rotation strength will be better than having your bullpen strength, then sure.
Are you open to that idea or no?
Probably less so, because I think your bullpen is a more valuable asset. Well, actually, sorry. Let me take that back. Not a more valuable asset, but I think the bullpen's more valuable with more pitchers in it.
Okay,
Not more valuable than the rotation, but the addition you would make by having a 6-man rotation, I think, would be more than offset by having one less guy in the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, never mind. I was going to say Hancock in that scenario would sort of essentially take Vogt's role, although Vogt's not really being used as a long reliever right now. He's just being thrown in as a normal reliever in certain situations. So, yeah, maybe one less bullpen arm isn't a good idea because we've seen this bullpen already get taxed through the first 2 weeks. So having 8 guys versus 7 out there does make a difference. Let's keep scrolling. Other questions we got on Instagram?
Who's more blind, Stevie Wonder or Angel Hernandez? Some ask.
Oh, here's actually an interesting question on Instagram. It's from Nate. He talks about Jonathan Clase being on fire. And yes, he has been down in Tacoma. I know where this question's going. I would say, so we answered a mailbag question on Friday about Ryan Bliss saying the offense is struggling. Will we see Bliss get called up? And we said no, because they got to make sure Ryan Bliss is ready before they call him up. He can't be called up based just off of necessity and desperation. And I would put Jonathan Clase in that exact same boat. Look, he's 2 weeks into playing in AAA. He's barely even stepped foot into a AAA season. They're going to give him a long while up there before he gets called up. Now, maybe we see Clase in the middle of the summer. Maybe we'd see him in July or August if he really keeps this up. But he's going to get a lot of time with the Rainiers before they even think about that, I think.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
There's going to be no rush to call guys up unless they're starters. Unless they're starting pitchers.
Well, they're going to have to call somebody up now with Dom Canzone.
Right. Well, okay, outside of injury or pitchers. There will be no Jared Kelenic thrown onto the rosters in this minor league system. That's not how it's going to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And also, Clase didn't have the best season hitting-wise in AA last year. They did move him up to AAA, and he made a lot of improvements over the offseason, and he had a good spring, so it makes sense. But I think the guy still needs some time. So, yeah.
Let's see. Was this pitching headache a sign we should have pursued Blake Snell harder? Well, Lyle and I's thoughts on that. Like, we thought they should have signed. We thought it was too easy of a decision to sign Blake Snell. But no, because they didn't want to start wooing the minors anyway. So, I think they want to. Here's how I'll answer that. I wanted not because of the pitching headache they have right now, but I wanted to sign Blake Snell because I thought it would have made the Mariners better. That's why I wanted to sign him.
Well, it would have made the Mariners better.
Yeah,
So,
it would have made the Mariners better, certainly.
And again, we've heard things that they were in on it. I know there was conflicting reports all winter, but we had Jared Carrabis on. He seemed pretty definitive that, yeah, the Mariners were in on Blake Snell, but for whatever reason, it just didn't go through. He might have wanted more years at the time. They may have still been trying to demand 6-7 years, and the Mariners didn't want to give him that. But yeah, I'm with you. One, I do think they were in on him, like Carrabis said, and two, I think it would have made the Mariners better. Look, Brian Wu has all the upside in the world, and I've talked about. I'm very much the high man on Brian Wu because his stuff is so good. But a proven Cy Young winner does make your rotation better, at least as of right now. So yeah.
Oh, interesting. So Clase is getting called up.
Oh, did they just announced that?
It looks like it.
Whoa.
I think he announced it on Instagram. Let's see. Someone's saying it.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, I'm seeing the tweets now. It looks like the Mariners will indeed call up Jonathan Clase to take Dominic Canzone's place on the roster. Wow.
Huh.
That's pretty wild. I did not expect
So
that.
why not Marlowe?
I bet you they like Clase's speed. The fact the guy can steal 60 bases.
Kate's pretty fast.
He's not Jonathan Clase fast.
No, he's not. Has more big league experience. Can at times we know be competitive against big league pitching.
Yeah.
Clase, we don't know yet.
Wow. Like, I did not expect that. I just figured he hasn't had enough at bats. Now, I don't think we have word yet on what Canzone's timetable is going to be. So AC joint sprains sometimes can be about 2 weeks. It could be a minimum IL stint. Could be more like 6 weeks. If they're calling up Clase again, the only information we even have right now is pictures on Jonathan Clase's Instagram. We don't have anything else. But I would guess they may think this is a short-term injury for Canzone because I don't think Clase's had the magnitude of plate appearances to truly be ready to see big league pitching. This feels to me like maybe Canzone will be out a couple weeks. Clase will get a couple of games here and there. He'll be a bench bat, get in on defense, although actually I know his defense still needs some work. But he's an option off the bench to run the bases for sure because we know he can run. This team currently does not have a lot of speed besides Julio and Dylan Moore. So this tells me maybe this is short term for Canzone. If it was going to be more like 6 weeks, you feel like you would call up Cade Marlowe. That's my take.
Interesting. We'll know tomorrow. I think we'll have a definitive answer when Scott Service talks to the media tomorrow at like 3:00.
Yeah.
I think we'll have an exact timetable of when they expect Dom to be healthy. It's an interesting take, though. I'm honestly not sure what to think about it. Not sure.
It doesn't feel more short term to you. I don't know. Like again, the Mariners.
But AC joint, like it just feels like 2 weeks is a little too optimistic for him, right? So if they truly believe that Clase is ready and they want him to, and they feel comfortable with him covering 6 weeks, that's a different story than short-term replacement speed off the bench. Because Clase's fast, but again, Barlow is also pretty fast. They had him play in center field, and he graded out well in the outfield defensively last year. So it's not like it's I don't know enough of a difference to say definitively you would call Clase up over him.
I don't know. Like, look, Clase has the higher ceiling. There's no doubt. He's an exciting prospect.
Yes.
We've heard about him. We've heard about him for a long time. I'm just looking here, though. Look, he spent all of last year, almost all of last year in Double-A. He hit 222. OPS was a little under 700. They said at least at the time they felt like he had some defense to work on. And then he goes to the Dominican Winter League this summer, and he hits 100 flat in 40 appearances. He was 4 for 40, 1 extra base hit, and now he's played 11 games in AAA. I don't know. Like, look, the Mariners have way more information on this than we do. But just off the information that we have as the public, this call-up feels more like, to me, it will be shorter term with Canzone. He'll get 4 or 5 starts in the course of 2 weeks. He'll get to pinch run. He'll play a little bit of defense, and then they'll let him go back to Tacoma and continue to develop once Canzone's back. Like, so if you're looking for glass half full here, not only will we get to see Class A, this to me feels like a shorter term thing with Dom Canzone, personally. Because I like to ask Class A to come up for 6 weeks right now, that feels a little aggressive. You were just saying how we're not going to see any Jared Kelnick situations.
I don't know if I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see. I was gonna say I don't know if I feel like Clase makes them better than having Cade Marlowe on the roster. I feel like it'd be a little bit more comfortable with Cade on the roster. But we're gonna have to see when he comes up here and actually produces.
So again, maybe it's a shorter term thing. Since you feel that way, right? Like if it was gonna be 6 weeks, who's right now the more reliable bat? Well, it's Cade. Cade's had spurts of big league success.
So here's what I think we'll really see with this. So we're going to get to see Luke Raley play finally because of this. He's going to get a lot more playing time.
Mm-hmm.
So we can I hopefully finally settle why he wasn't playing. Either it's going to be shown on the field or he's going to show everyone wrong and he's going to start crushing.
I think the reason behind the Luke Raley thing is I think Mitch Haniger's playing much more than anybody anticipated. I don't think anybody thought he was going to be playing every day. Along with they've really liked what they've seen out of Canzone. I think that's what it is. There's only 3 spots. They've loved Canzone. They've really liked what they've seen out of Mitch, who's gotten off to a good start. Obviously, Julio's playing just about every day. There's an odd man out. I think that's what it was. I know Raley had a great year last year, but I think genuinely that's what it was, and now we'll see him get more time.
It makes sense, certainly. But yeah, again, in summary, though, he's going to play a lot more now.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have his opportunity to play, and now's the time for him to prove even when Canzone comes back, he should still be playing more than he has.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it was just, it's kind of shocking the tiny amount he had played so far. There's a good comparison. I saw my brother left a comment on Instagram. Here's a comp. He's like, hey, is Brant Brown Shane Waldron?
Well, I don't know how to answer that, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that either. Well, he's not. Brant Brown's not leaving and going somewhere else this offseason. We'll say that. No. Interesting.
No, I don't know. This Jonathan Clase call up is wild. I did not expect that in any sense of the word. But look, we'll learn much more tomorrow. If you want to like preview what our storylines are going to be now on Wednesday's podcast, for those of you listening right now, well, you've got them. We're going to talk about Julio and we're going to talk about Clase. So yeah. Oh, here's a fun one. This is from Javier on Instagram. If there were takebacks, who are we taking back? Teo, Gino, or Jared Kelnick? Well, you know my answer.
I probably have the same answer as you.
Yeah. Because
that's an easy sell.
I mean,
I know Teo's gone off to start this year, but
yeah, like
I can't put myself through those strikeouts again.
That, and even objectively, right? Even me being like the biggest Jared Kelnick fan in the world, objectively, youngest, most club controllable, good defender, highest upside of the 3 right now for like obviously Teo and Gino are the better players. They've proven way more than Kelnick has in his career, but just of what they could do going forward. Yeah, obviously Kelnick has the highest ceiling, and he plays defense. So if I had to pick one of those 3, yeah, I'd take Kelnick back, especially with this Canzone injury. Now I'd take Kelnick back.
A lot of the YouTube comments are Gino. To get, but Mariners third basemen have been playing pretty well. Luis Urias made some good defensive plays this weekend, I'll say, and Gino's really cooled off at the plate.
Go listen to our Friday podcast, people. We just talked about this at length about the third base platoon. I'm not going to sit here and tell you their defense is Nolan Arenado level, prime Arenado level, but they have hit better than Gino has so far, and they've been one of the bright spots of the offense so far. So, like, drill that into your head. We'll see what it looks like over 162 games. But right now, Josh Rojas and Luis Urias have done their part, so it's not on them.
They could really use a guy they could use the personality of Gino. I'll say that. That's what they could
Sure.
use.
If you're talking clubhouse stuff, yeah, definitely. Well, let's see what else? Someone just said Gabe Spire is here? Question mark, question mark. Oh, did Gabe jump in here?
Yeah, Gabe, if you want to talk, we'll give you the floor.
Yeah.
All yours.
Maybe he jumped in for a second. Or
I saw Sauce was streaming. What Sauce? What was he streaming today?
It looked like he was playing Call of Duty, and
Well, okay.
I don't know. I think I don't know anything about video. I mean, not nothing about video games, but people were sending him a lot of what do you call it? Like in the comments, they were sending him like level ups or whatever you call it. Do you know anything more than me about Call of Duty?
Oh, I played a good amount of Call of Duty.
What is it? Is it level ups? People were like sending him tokens for level ups or whatever it was.
I haven't played Call of Duty in almost a decade, but they're probably giving him like you can buy packs with coins and donations and stuff like that.
I think that's what people were sending.
Gabe was in here, by the way. I found him.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
What's up, Gabe? If you're still in here, good job.
Oh yeah, you want to talk about positives? Like we'll continue.
Gabe was killing it.
He's been
another good outing today.
He's been killing it every outing he's been in. So I mean, he hasn't given up a run. Knock on wood. And he's, like we've talked about on some podcasts, he's looked absolutely dominant. When was the last time the Mariners had a dominant left-handed arm? Like, it's been a long time. And from the way he's pitched so far, like he's been very much that.
Hold on here a second. So first of all, it's double XP tokens they're sending him.
Oh.
Second of all, someone tell me if Eastern Washington U college boy, is this actually true? His gamer tag is Babe Ruth QAnon 69.
No,
that can't be it. That can't be it.
No, somebody's lying. How did you just fall for that?
That can't be it.
No, how did you just fall for that? That's not his gamer
Well,
tag.
I was like genuinely asked. I've never watched him stream.
Oh,
that would be funny. Dude, would you put it past Sauce to have something funny like that? No? Oh, okay, yeah. So, well, I thought that was funny. I would laugh if that was the case.
No, that would be quite a name. Here, let's see what anybody else has sent so far. Are we getting any other questions?
Oh, this would be a good time again for you to pump up Demo. Talk about someone who's going to get some more playing time.
For sure.
Because of this.
Yesterday, he had a few really good at-bats and nothing to show for it. Like he scored, like he just missed a home run multiple times, multiple at-bats, and just came up empty. Which I don't know how Christopher Morel, by the way, speaking of Saturday's game, all of a sudden turned. I'm going to use the example again, like prime Matt Chapman, prime Nolan Arenado. That guy by the numbers, awful defender. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's looking like Matt Chapman to basically save an entire inning last week. So, yeah, like he's we're what, 15 games into the year, he's a -3 outs above average guy at third base already. And it looked like it on Saturday, that's for sure. So, yeah, there's somebody just said, yeah, -2 OAA. I thought I saw -3. Point being, hasn't looked good so far, but yeah, it did on Saturday.
But at this point with his bat, he's got to be in the lineup more. Way more.
Demo is over. Oh, well, I just.
Yeah, you know who that is.
I just look who sent it. I wasn't looking very close. As I say, $3 million a year is totally fine. That's our buddy that sent that. So just trying to give us a hard time. What's up?
No, nothing. Just all the overwhelmingly positive comments here on YouTube.
What do you? Are you shocked?
No. I mean, and again, I didn't expect an overwhelming amount of positivity today. We'll try and spin it positive sometimes, but like just to put it frank, they're not playing well. And the places we needed to see the Mariners play significantly better this season, they have not.
Not yet.
And it's a problem.
Yeah.
Because there's only so many times you can continue to try and fix the problem on the roster before people want other things to happen. Right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, and to your point, the Mariners have a 5-2 week. Of course, not only on the podcast are we going to be pumping them up, we'll be on this live stream pumping them up because they have a 5-2 week. There's a ton of reason for optimism. They just haven't had that yet. They still got to win their first series. So yeah.
Can you believe that? Yeah, they still have not won a series.
Well, yeah. I mean, it has only been 5. Like, obviously, the sample size isn't big, but yes, for a team that you would expect to have a chance to win the AL West this year, like we predicted, or at least I predicted. Yeah, you would think between like nobody expects the Red Sox to be some juggernaut. I don't think people are expecting the Guardians to be a juggernaut. I don't think people are expecting the Brewers to be a juggernaut, but they haven't ended up winning a series yet. So the Cubs too. Like the Cubs are not a juggernaut. Who in the world was that pitching today? By the way, like
Yeah,
I
did you
think
know who that was? I didn't know who that was.
I think like the two of us, I'd like to call ourselves pretty high level ball knowers. I had legitimately no clue who that guy was. Like Javier Assad was his name. I only know that because it was up on the video board and on the box score. That's all I knew about him.
Never heard of him before.
Also, you know what makes this loss even more frustrating today? The fact that they could have had the ultimate payback and karma for Hector Neris if they had ended up like hitting a dinger off him or getting the game-winning hit against him in the 8th inning. Like, so much karma could have been flipped. So much. I was ready for it too. I was gonna fire off such a like banger of a tweet about it, but that's
And it was a shame Julio wasn't there to hit against him.
Yeah. Although maybe we, like we said, don't we need to keep Julio out of fights this year?
Well, yeah. He doesn't have to participate, but if he goes deep and Neris gets pissed off, then it's not Julio's fault.
Well, that's true. That's happened before. Like, shout out 2022 down in Houston. Just, Neris clearly held a grudge for a year and 4 months and took it out in the end of September. So
they need a brawl to light their fuse, like Winker. Well, it does. I'm not saying they need to fight. It's entertaining, but that's not. I'll say he's not totally wrong. Not saying it needs to happen for that to flip the switch, but if you're talking about like firing guys up, what happened after that fight in 22, Lau? 22 of 25.
Oh, you don't talk to Divish about this, by the way. Divish hates when people say that fight spark plugged that season. He hates people that have that comment. He's like, no, it didn't. That wasn't what happened. Like this and that. So
the funniest thing, they were essentially playing a man down for like
a week,
3 weeks.
I don't know if it was that long.
But they staggered all the suspended players.
Oh, true, they did. So yeah.
Remember Julio had to sit out game 1 of a doubleheader, and he just was not on the roster because he was suspended.
That's right. You know what? People are already pissed off today. Why not just add fuel to the fire? For everybody in the comments, I don't know if you guys have looked at Jesse Winker's stats with the Nationals yet this year.
Oh, he went deep yesterday.
Now, I haven't looked at his box score from today, Sunday. Entering today, Jesse Winker's hitting 350. He leads baseball with a 490 on base percentage. He's OPSing 1015 with a WRC plus over 1,000. Or sorry, OPS over 1,000. WRC plus is over 180. That's what I meant to say. Over 180.
Man, I'm speechless.
Like leading the league in on-base percentage.
He's playing every day, right?
Well, he's played 13 games, so he's getting a lot of time. Somebody's going to trade for this. Somebody's going to trade for this dude at the deadline, too, if he keeps it up. He's going to be one of those pieces.
Who could use a lefty masher bat?
The M's?
Well, if Canzone comes back from injury and struggles to hit, and it's just JP.
No.
Yeah, I know they wouldn't do it. I know that ship has sailed with Jerry and Scott. They wouldn't do it.
Not only is that ship sailed, you want him back out left field, like playing defense?
No. No.
Like,
no.
Didn't you publicly proclaim on one of our podcasts, it was either one of our podcasts or on one of these live streams, that TJ, who did not do more than play high school baseball, could have played better left field defense than Jesse Winker in 2022.
I probably said that at one point, and I was a pretty crummy defender. That was pretty bad.
Like, I don't think people can go through that experience again. So Yeah,
Is he DHing with the Nats? Is he playing in the field?
Great question. Let's look. I mean, I've got his reference page up here. I'll scroll down. Well, he's played 11 games in the outfield. Oh, and he has how many? Oh my God, he has +2 defensive. How? How?
Oh no! Have you seen him? He's thrown like 2 guys out at the plate.
That I've seen, but I still figured his defensive metrics weren't going to favor him. Like he was the worst statistically left fielder in baseball in 2022. The worst one. This dude had -16 defensive runs saved with the Mariners. And you know how many games he played that year in left field? Because they stopped playing him out there eventually. 113 games. So roughly, that's like 50 games a year he was not in the field. And he was still by far the worst defender in baseball in left field.
Lyle, actually, so now that someone just brought it up, yeah, that's sad. The fact, like, the Mariners could really use the current versions of Jesse Winker and Teoscar Hernandez in their outfield in this lineup. No, sorry, not in the outfield, in the lineup.
Okay.
They could really use those 2 in the lineup right now. Man, Mariners would have a pretty good lineup. They had those 2 right now. They would be pretty good. I want to piggyback off a point we were talking about earlier. I think this actually would make more sense with Clase.
Okay.
When Haggerty gets back healthy, he takes that spot.
That would make sense.
So Clase comes up, plays a handful of games.
Mm-hmm.
Sam's ready, comes up.
That makes sense. And Haggerty's just getting his at-bats back in. Like Hollander talked about this on Friday, saying Haggerty didn't get a ton of at-bats in spring training. They're working, they're ramping him up in Tacoma. That would make sense. That would make sense if Haggerty comes back up, you give Clase a few games, and then send him back down. I guess my only question, obviously this is a very pro Sam Haggerty podcast. He's the man. But what is the thought process behind Haggerty over Samad Taylor? Is it because Haggerty's got way more big league time than Taylor does?
They probably trust him more.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, they play similar roles. Utility guys are fast, can play infield and outfield. Yeah, that would make sense. Like they definitely trust Haggerty more because he's been around the org longer. They know what he brings and who he is. So yeah.
A couple other former Mariner roster suggestions. Abe Toro, of course.
Oh, Abe Toro. How are we feeling?
Well, he's probably hitting better than he could probably be he could be better than one of the 9 Mariners hitters.
No, he's not. I looked up his stats. Even though I tweeted out that thing the other day just to piss you off with Abe Toro, sometimes you have to.
Oh, is he actually? He's actually been worse.
He must have had a good day recently because now he's up to a 123 OPS plus.
Get a cleanup for the M's.
Well, does he have a home run yet? He does have a home run. Yeah, we didn't do this podcast back in 2022 because we started it a little bit after that. I honestly wish we had. I wish you all our lovely, fantastic, loyal listeners had gotten to see the roller coaster of TJ getting to watch almost full season of Abe Toro.
Abe Toro's last 7 games, he's hitting 345.
Now, how does that make you feel? Pretend like we're on the Dr. Phil show here, TJ. How does that make you feel?
You know that the new Joker trailer came out this week.
Mm-hmm.
There's the scene of him in the prison yard in pouring rain, laughing. That's how I feel.
Like, I used to get all capital letters text from TJ after, it was getting to the point where it was after every Abe Toro bat. It's like, buddy, I know. Believe me, I know by now how you feel. And as I try to diffuse the conversation, texts just keep coming in and coming in and coming in. I can't watch these at bats anymore. So
he started 23 games as designated hitter. It's like the worst hitter in the league. He started DH 23 times.
Abe did?
Yeah. Designated hitter.
Well,
hit. Well, you know what designated hitters are supposed to do? Hit.
Hey, you should go watch that Twitter video I put out. I see a lot of home runs in that video. No?
No, I refuse. I might go delete that tweet. That's what I
You-
might do. I might go spite you.
You can go delete it. At some point, I might have to post it again.
Oh, boy.
Let's see if we've got any other questions for him. These, you got any others on Instagram? You guys got any tips on how to get smarter about ball? Well, no, we're just a couple of podcasters. I mean, we can give our takes, but
Well, I'd say the best thing to do is just watch and listen. Like,
this question is they actually want to know like how to learn more about baseball. Okay,
if this is a serious question, then like watch and listen.
Yeah,
that's it. Ingest and listen and read as much as you can.
Definitely recommend, like, if it's about the Mariners you want to learn more about, like, read the beat reporters articles, Ryan Divish, Daniel Kramer, Shannon Dreyer, like, read their articles, listen to the game, because the Mariners broadcasters are always very, very insightful and help you learn a lot. Like, we know Aaron Goldsmith does a great job of that. Dave Sims, Rick Riz, in a little bit of a different way, also do a very good job of that. So, yeah, you can learn a lot. And also, if you're trying to learn on your own, I would say 2 websites that can help you really learn a lot: Fangraphs and Baseball Savant. Like, you can learn a lot about a player by looking at the site.
Well, actually, I would put a pause on that. I wouldn't go into that cold turkey.
Okay.
No, I would do the reading first. Understand a little bit, but it could be a little overwhelming. If you go into a Fangraphs page and scroll, probably don't understand most of what's on there. But
okay, so then with that, yeah, definitely listen to and watch games and read articles or listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about national baseball, like read Jeff Passan's articles, read a bunch of the national reporters articles. You can watch MLB Network. You can listen to a bunch of the national baseball shows. Like the network we're part of, we cannot recommend the Just Baseball show enough for all of you guys. If you're looking for a national baseball podcast, Peter, Jack, Aram, they do as good of a job of it as anybody. They genuinely do an awesome job with that podcast. So if you're looking to learn more about the national scale of things, like the 2 of us do talk national baseball on this podcast once a week or so. So we do dive into it. But if you're looking for it more on an everyday basis, go listen to the Just Baseball show. You'll learn a lot.
Let's do a couple more. Here's a good question. A question about the long-term catching plan. What do you think? What do you think the long-term catching plan is?
We talked to Jim Callis about this a little bit. I think it's going to be Cal until it isn't. Now, whether that means they keep Cal around and extend him, or one day when he hits free agency, they bring him back in free agency. Maybe he starts to do more DHing. Maybe you start to see him playing more for space. You see a lot of catchers start to do that. When their knees start to give out on them a little bit, but they can still hit, you'll see them DH a lot more and play first base a lot more. But that may happen with Cal eventually. That's not happening anytime soon. He's still one of the best defensive catchers in the league, and he's not going anywhere for a while. Eventually, though, down the road, yeah, maybe that would happen, and maybe then Harry Ford slides in. Or if Cal long-term doesn't stay around, you have another catcher coming up who's very young, very athletic, and should be here for a long time in Harry Ford. So, honestly, I think the 2 positions people should be least concerned about going forward are probably catcher and center field. The hitting-wise, like, obviously, we know the rotation's great. Catcher and center field, because there are long-term plans there.
Callis made it sound like he was anticipating they let Harry catch sooner rather than later at the big league level. That's kind of what he was letting on at event. Like, we'll have to see it. Most of it, like you said, depends on Cal's contract status with Scott Boras being his agent, or until maybe he dumps Scott Boras and chooses someone else before he heads into free agency or before he signs an extension. But
like, you know what? Like, we can say that here, right? We can publicly vouch to dump Scott Boras, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, we're not loyal to Scott Boras. So.
No. Hashtag dump Scott Boras. Let's see Blake Snell do it. Let's see Cody Bellinger do it. Let's see Juan Soto do it. He won't, but he should.
But so that's what he made it sound like, and I thought that was an interesting point because Cal will be 30 in 3 years, and by that point, usually catchers start getting up there, and not only is the bat speed slow down, but the body starts breaking down a little bit too because of all the repetition behind the plate. So it'll be an interesting case study whether the Mariners feel like they want to commit to Cal long term behind the plate, or maybe at another option. So we'll see. But I wouldn't rule out the thought of Harry Ford catching at the big league level sooner rather than later. Yeah. Wouldn't rule it out.
And if they're both that good behind the plate and both of them want to stick around, like Cal wants to stick around and Harry's obviously very young into his career, that is what we call a very good problem to have. Very good one. Because guess what? As we know, if it gets to that, Harry Ford can play other positions. He is athletic enough to go play second base or go play the outfield. So if they have to resort to that, they can. I think they're going to keep Harry a catcher for a long time, and I think they want to. I don't think they're going to start moving him around much in the minors. Just from what we've heard talking to Jim Palace about it, and from what other people seem to believe about it, doesn't seem like they're going to move him off the position or anything. So again, that's a good problem to have moving forward.
Do you want to wrap it on that?
Yeah, we can wrap. You know what? We can get to one more last question before we sign off because Ellie asked, Lyle's been out at the park. When's TJ making his way out? We can ask that.
I think next month. I think so.
Okay.
I think that'll be good. Mother's Day is next month, so that'll be a good opportunity. A good weekend, I believe.
Oh.
Or Mother's Day celebration. I don't know exactly when that is, but we'll sort it out.
All right, well that'd be good. So yeah, how many times do you think you can get up here this year? 3, or is it going to be less?
3 sounds about right. Maybe more. Depends. It's not that far.
That'd
A lot
great.
can change between now and then.
Well, last year was 1. I'm just hoping for our sake it can be more than 1 for you this year.
But there'll be time for opportunity.
Okay.
Well, I can't commit to throughout the 6 months.
That's fair. But
a lot of stuff can change between now and then.
If TJ makes it out 3 times, that's I'll call that a win. That'd be a good amount, like 3 different series. And I will say, if you come up Mother's Day weekend, it'll work out pretty well. And I'll tell you why. Because as we learned today, you ain't getting much done on Sunday when you're trying to do what we're doing. Because until Memorial Day, there's these Little League parades that go all around the field. So people are walking all around the warning track. So like for most of the media, it doesn't affect them. Like they're not doing what we're doing. But for our sake, when you've got a million people walking around, you can't do much. So yeah, like you want to go on.
So that's what when you mentioned that earlier, I was like, well, that's probably a good way to balance it.
Yeah, exactly. You come for a game or 2 and then celebrate on Sunday or whatever it is. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll be good. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah. Like we always tell you guys, you see us at the park, always feel free to flag us down. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys again for tuning in every Sunday, 7:00, win or lose, on YouTube and Instagram. We'll be here, and we look forward to talking to you guys next week. So until then, make sure to subscribe, make sure to follow at Marine Layer Pod on everything, Twitter, Instagram. Find us on YouTube, find us on TikTok as well. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next week.